Hello, welcome back to Meant to Move. I am Vanessa, your host. This week, we welcome back Michael Fisher, my partner, for his segment Stir the Pot. There was much stirring to be happening right at the end of the podcast. This is a really fun one today because after all of the feedback that we received from the first episode that Michael recorded, it was about kind of how revelatory those key points about fiber were, about macronutrients. And so we decided this week to dive into some really easy ways for you to add in some amazing things into your already existing diet, regime, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, as well as explaining the rationale behind why we think that adding these things is great for you and giving you a little bit of background. And what I really love about Michael's approach is it's no nonsense. You know, we hear a lot of I listen to a lot of medical professionals, a lot of allied health professionals, a lot of nutritionists give off stats, give off all of these details of information about how much percentage this food that you eat reduces your risk of cancer or increases your risk of, prevention of something. And I don't think the numbers are important. I think what's important when it comes to food is being able to act upon the information that you receive. So what we've tried to do is give you little bits of information that you can act upon. If you find any of these tips particularly useful or they particularly resonate with you, I highly suggest that you pause the podcast. If you're driving, tell Siri to pause the podcast and take a note for yourself. Because at the end of the day, hearing all of this information is great. We want you to be able to put some things into practice. And the more that we're able to help give this practical advice, the more that we're really happy about what we're doing as well. So give it a go, pause when you need to. And if you find yourself with more questions or you're wanting more advice about something really specific, then get in touch. It's really important for us to know where to go in the next direction for you for this next pod. I hope you enjoy. Do you know someone who's struggling with pain or frustration when it comes to exercise? If this episode reminded you of someone, please share this episode with them. Sometimes all it takes is the right information at the right time, and it can make a significant difference. Let's spread the word and help more people find joy in movement. Hello to my amazing husband, partner, amazing man sitting in the other room. Hello.
Hello, I'm not your husband just yet.
Maybe when this episode lands. Welcome if you're coming back. This is your number 2 episode. We had a lot of feedback from friends, from family, from people about your episode in particular.
A lot of feedback.
Good feedback. And I think one of the big take homes for a lot of people was hearing you talk so much about fiber, which is super important, been dubbed now the Fiber King. And I know it's important. And so what I want to start with today is you have all of these incredible, super interesting bits of information that you have in your head that you've read in books that you actually put into practice daily. And we've created a bit of a list. Let's start going into some things that people can do day to day to add more nutrition or add more benefit from maybe the nutrition they're already getting into their life. So let's launch in. Where are we going to start?
Well, the first one I would not say would be adding more nutrition, if I'm completely honest with you.
Oh, okay.
But it adds a lot of joy for me personally, and you too, I think. When you buy the little small papadums, you can buy them at like the big supermarkets who I won't name. You know who they are, those people that I don't really like. There's particularly a brand called Maharaja's Choice. They don't sponsor me. If they want to, I'm all for it. They've got the little papadums and you microwave them for like a minute to a minute and a half and they come out like perfectly crispy. And like having 6 of them is like 50 calories and 6 of them is quite a lot. And it's just like a great like textural thing, tastes really good. They're gluten-free because they're made from lentils as well. So that's always positive. That doesn't mean they're high fiber though, because they're like hulled lentils and all sorts, but still point is they are very delicious and accessible and like price points accessible as well. So That's the first thing. I think like we had them last night, for example. We had like a hummus dish with like duck and a few other bits and pieces. And instead of having bread with it, because Nest doesn't eat gluten during the week, we had those with it. And like a big piece of Lebanese bread's great. I would absolutely smash it happily daily. But obviously, there's a big difference in like how much food you're getting, how much like energy, calorie, macro, whatever you refer to it in this case, how much you're getting from it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good starting point, because I like how you mentioned it's joy as well. Like food is joy, and it's important to make swaps for food that are actually like tasty. You know what I mean? Not just for the sake of swapping out something. Like, great, it's nutritious, it's more nutritious or less nutritious or whatever, but tasty is super important. So, like, if someone was saying, "Okay, Michael, I'm going to get these papadums and have them in the pantry," like, what else would I do with them? Just so I don't make a lot of Indian curry. I know you're not going to get along with that person, but
Don't ask me.
but if they don't cook a lot of curry at home, what else would you use a papadum for?
Well, like I said, in place of like a corn chip or a bread or something, like to be fair, credit where it's due, Adam Liao, although he gives talks on eating healthy, I don't know how that happens. Just I like you, Adam Liao, but no more health food talk, please. You don't know what you're talking about. Um, and you certainly don't practice it. He made like nachos out of it, which I thought was actually really clever. So he microwaved a bunch of them first, and then he just put like nacho topping on top of them. And
Mm.
just again for context, like the chips in nachos are delicious, but they're usually deep fried, so they're usually a lot higher density of macros. So that's more like if you wanted to have it like on a normal day rather than like if you're like out with friends or having people over, like make something like with corn chips or whatever. It doesn't mean you can't make it with something different too, but yeah. So just in places of like bread, you can crush them, like you can microwave them, crush them up, chuck them on top of things just for texture and that too. The taste is pretty neutral.
Mm.
So I mean, really, I mean, I've had them with just like I've just had them with like Vegemite on them before, and they're rad. Like so, yeah. Use your imagination.
I think that's a really fun one to start with, because it's a really good swap. I
My mouth's watering, but go on.
Yeah, they're really good. So check them out. If you do or don't like bread, then I think that they're a really good swap for good texture. Let's continue with our list. What's next up?
So just like some like things about nutrition, like this is what I learned this one recently that black beans have more polyphenols than like a higher polyphenol content than blueberries, which is kind of mind blowing, seeing as like berries are rightfully seen as like this superfood, crazy healthy and all that sort of stuff. But like the cost ratio of blueberries v black beans, and even like if you're getting dried black beans cheaper still, is crazy. And then obviously like black beans are very high fiber. They're good source of protein as well. You'd want to have them with another protein source to complete the amino acid profile. So like in South and Central America, there's a lot of black beans and rice together that actually has a complete amino acid profile. You could do it other ways too, but just as an example, you see that as like a staple in a lot of their meals, and there's good reason for it.
That's a
And they're
cool.
tasty.
Yeah. You mentioned dried there, and I think at the moment everyone's talking about cost. When people look at dried beans, they often think so much effort, like, oh, I can't be bothered. How do you get people around that barrier of like dried beans aren't that hard? Like, what do you have to do to a black bean to get it from a dried state to rice and beans?
You can cook them with dried beans without soaking them. They just take a lot longer. Or you can do them with baking soda in there too, or you can do them in an instant pot like a pressure cooker. All those things are okay, but you're better off just if you're relatively planned with your eating, like the day before, you soak them overnight and they'll take about 45 minutes to cook till they're soft. So it's not like you have to like stand there and stir them. Get them up to temp, chuck a timer on for 45 minutes, come back, drain them. Yeah, it's actually they're more digestible if you soak them as well. And the benefit of not getting tin's fine, tin's great, is tin are all lined with like plastic. And if you see any dents in your tins, you're getting a ton more microplastics every time you eat. That's like very well proven.
Yeah. I was dubious at first about dried beans, just because it did sound like such an effort, but you really do. I mean, obviously you make it easy. You weigh them out, you soak them overnight. You're very
I was
good
about to
at
say it's pretty
remembering.
Well, you get someone that makes them for you. That's how you make it easier. So just for context, everyone about Vanessa, she's like, oh, it's so easy to do these things, and I'm like, yeah, because I do them for you, but that's cool.
He does. He does all of these things for me. I think everybody knows I say it. However, what I am trying to illustrate is that you know, leaving it even in the morning, like, you go to work and you're going to cook them at night before you head out for work, you just chuck them in some water. They're soaked all day, and then they should prepare like a lot easier that night. And it's not just black beans that are super incredible for you. Obviously, you're talking about the polyphenols from black beans to blueberries, but I mean, like up on our shelf there, how many different types of dried beans do you think there are?
There'd be about, there's more than 10, and there's more in the cupboard as well. And they keep for so long without losing much nutritional content as well. So, yeah, they're just like super handy to have around because, like I said, they're quite a decent source of protein provided you put them with something else.
Mm.
So even if you just wanted to even if you're scared of carbohydrates, which is a different matter, you can make a bean, something with beans like a dal or wwhatever, and then just chuck some yogurt through towards the end, mix it through, and that'll complete the amino acid profile as well.
Mm.
So I'm basically like bean and legume radicalized. I still eat quite a bit of meat too, by the way. I'm not someone who's like don't eat meat, don't eat dairy, because yeah. Anyway,
No, and I think this is there's quite a divide of people who eat meat or eat dairy products. It's almost like, okay, I'm then not going to have a look at these plant-based options, which are so incredibly like good for me and, like you said, complete the meal. Dried beans, you just said beans and rice. So if someone was looking to increase their nutrition, do you recommend like, half beans, half rice when they're serving like their dinner up or something like that? Is that a good swap, do you think?
yeah, well, because you'd get more from the beans because you'd get a lot more fiber, and you'd get a lot more protein, and you'll get more and different micronutrients from the beans as well.
Mm.
It's just, yeah, black bean was the example I gave first up because that still blows my mind a bit about the polyphenols. But like pretty much all beans are healthy. Well, they all are. It's just there's people talk about like the anti-nutrients and stuff in them, which is a big rabbit hole. But basically, soaking them more or less gets rid of that completely. And there's still more advantages based off, well, thousands of years of people eating them and science to eating them with their anti-nutrients, as they're called, which they're not really. You There's still more benefits to eating them than not eating them, as
Yeah.
in like with all the fiber and protein and other micronutrients in there.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Beans are on the list. What do we
Yeah.
got next?
So to get your recommended daily intake of selenium, eating 2 Brazil nuts. This is, yeah, exactly right. And they're delicious too. And they're on the more expensive side of some of the nuts, but you can get them again from your favorite supermarkets for the equivalent of about $30 a kilo, $32 a kilo, which isn't too bad. And if you're having two a day, I can tell you something crazy about, my macros and weighing on my food. Depending on the size, blah, 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 it's like 6 to 9 grams of them. So
Mm.
it's not a big investment. Just keep them in an airtight container. And yeah, like I said, they're delicious. You can eat them by themselves, or you can just crush them up, put them over something else too. You can have more than two if you want to as well, obviously. It's not like
Yeah.
they're bad for you.
Yeah, they're like one of the single biggest sources of selenium in terms of food that you can eat in like one go, which is really cool. Anyone who has thyroid issues, which is why I pointed at myself, they're incredibly great for thyroid issues, specifically Hashimoto's, autoimmune. And I think that, you're talking about these micronutrients now. Like last time we talked about macronutrients and carbs and fat and protein,
And
but
fiber.
fiber, the new macronutrient. But you know, these little micronutrients get talked about, but we don't really hear about really cool ways to add them into our diet. And quite literally before dinner, I'll just open up the jar, grab out 2 Brazil nuts and just munch on them all throughout the day or whatever it is. And it's just such an easy add to what you're doing.
And the keyword there is add as well. And like I said, they're tasty. Like, yes, the old caveat, if you're allergic to them, don't do it, but that's your own responsibility to like figure that out and know that kind of stuff. I mean, I'll use this to go into the next one because like there's quite a bit of like strong research to say that eating walnuts specifically, or any tree nuts, 28 grams of, so 1 ounce in US terms, daily during chemo treatment actually like greatly lowers mortality risk rate. Stuff like that. Why that's not just fucking common knowledge, and it should be fucking common knowledge the way I'm saying that, because like if you can lower someone's risk of dying during chemotherapy or at least getting a better outcome if they don't pass, like it seems so stupid. It's such a low cost.
Low risk.
Yeah, like yeah. And like even before I just double checked it like online before, and it was quite funny because it was like there was quite strong warnings about make sure that the patient's not allergic. And I'm like, fuck me, like yes, obviously, but if they've got cancer, like Jesus Christ, maybe we should be like looking at like warning if they're not allergic, give this to them every single day. This is great for them. It's just anyway, it's just the language around it's quite interesting. But yeah, basically, short version is walnuts specifically, but tree nuts in general are great for your health generally anyway, but particularly during chemo treatment. Like it was just mind blowing. I remember listening to a podcast about it quite a while ago, and I was just like, I was blown away that it's not a lot more widespread known, particularly amongst med pros. They're not even very aware of it, which is like criminal to me.
Yeah, it seems bizarre that something so simple can have such a massive influence. And if we know that it has an influence during your cancer treatment, you have to assume it goes a long way in terms of prevention as well, in terms of what it's doing inside you biochemically to help heal things in your body that we don't really know the true function and source of. But like you can kind of make that assumption.
Think about it like this. If there, I genuinely do not quite remember what the percentage was in like drop in mortality rate, but if a pharma company came out with a drug that was like, you take this during chemo in conjunction with the other treatment, it'll drop your mortality risk by 10%. Doctors would be falling over themselves to give it to patients. And so what I'm trying to get at here is like, it's just that it's not common knowledge because basically it's not an easy way to make money for people. Unfortunately, that's probably a different podcast. But anyway, don't start me down that road. Yeah, but basically what I'm trying to get at is like this. It's such a low cost, low. It's really no risk unless somebody has an allergy. And again, like if you're an adult, that's your prerogative to know that. If you don't know that by the time you're an adult, then that's your problem. Yeah, I think that's a really great one, just knowing things like that. So, and just like around the 28 gram thing, because it's not a huge dose. I mean, I understand around chemo, there's like, I thankfully haven't had to go through anything like that, that people can find appetite a problem. So that would probably be the only real issue around that, is that if people are struggling to eat, they probably don't want to just ram walnuts in, but you never know. I guess if you're telling people that there has such a great potential benefit to them, they may want to.
Let's link this tree nut benefit back to the beans, because you talked about completing this amino acid profile. If we started adding, sprinkling of these Brazil nuts or tree nuts on top of our beans and rice now, how is that helping our overall meal in terms of balance?
Well, so for example, the tree nuts, you're going to be adding fats and protein and fiber, more fat than anything. It's not a huge amount of protein, it's not a huge amount of fiber, but still you're just adding good things to your meal and you're adding loads of micronutrients. Again, with the beans, obviously lots of fiber, lots of protein, and they bulk your meal out nicely as well. And again, on the fiber thing, it'll help you poo really nicely. You eat beans most days or every day. It's just a hell of a lot better when you're in the bathroom, basically.
We won't go
And
down that rabbit hole down this
yeah,
podcast, but that's
well, it's
cool.
important to know,
It is.
right? Like because like some crazy percent of the population that are constipated.
Yeah.
And it's because everyone doesn't, well, not everyone, that's unfair. Most people don't eat anywhere near enough fiber or just eat a healthy diet generally.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. We're starting to build this kind of day of how we can add in all of these cool things in. What's the next couple on our list?
All right, so mushrooms help prevent breast cancer. The dosage, I think it was like 40 or 50 grams a day, and it can be like white button mushrooms. It can be pretty much any edible mushroom that's not poisonous. Just again for that's pretty obvious, but yeah, I mean, I guess you'd prevent any sort of cancer if you ate death cap mushrooms. So anyway,
Don't do that. Not a
yeah,
recommendation.
yeah, that's not health advice, I wouldn't think. But yeah, so it's like I remember listening to it. It's basically the equivalent of eating two mushrooms. And so it's easy enough to like, if you're making like, I guess a bolognese or something, chuck in a big handful of shredded up mushrooms, you chuck them in curries, whatever, whatever. I mean, you can just eat them raw too if you want to. Or you can slice them really thin and marinate them raw and chuck them in salads. They get really
Mm.
nice like that if you want to add them in. But like again, like mushrooms are one of those things. Like whenever there's a study on them, they're like, oh, it's good for this now too. And something really weird, mushrooms are closer to our physiology genetically than like apes and monkeys and stuff are. Just as a random fact, which is possibly why they're so healthy for us.
Yeah. There's also
Something to do with that.
that added weird, interesting benefit that if you leave your mushrooms out in the sun or like out during the day, they collect vitamin D. So if you're vitamin D deficient, you can then obtain this vitamin D from the mushrooms in the sun. How, like, that's wild to me. That's so cool.
Yeah, sit them on a windowsill and they'll absorb vitamin D, yeah, which is really cool, right? And again, like you said, like it's just one of those easy ways to get vitamin D. And like specifically if you're like really light skinned like myself and you basically have to fear the sun in this country now, or if you're particularly dark skinned and it's harder for you to get enough sun, especially, I mean, you think like in the UK, particularly where there's a lot less sunlight and things like that, people are generally a lot nicer in summer in the UK because they're not as vitamin D deficient. It's like an actual thing. But yeah,
Mm.
anyway, so easy way to get more vitamin D. There's naturally occurring vitamin D in them anyway, in them being mushrooms, and then yeah, sitting them in the sun, they absorb more.
Yeah, these are cool. I like these. All right, keep going.
Cool. Nigella seeds really helpful for normal thyroid function. So again, this was one I actually found when I was doing some like reading into how I could help you diet wise with your Hashimoto's. You can buy Nigella seed extracts and that, but like just buy Nigella seeds. They're goddamn delicious. I mean, they're a little bit on the more expensive side, but like they last like you don't need tons of them. It's also known as black cumin, which it's not cumin at all, obviously. I say obviously, but to me it is. And I can't quite think of the Hindi name for it. I know the Hindi name for a lot of spices.
Yeah, there was another name for them as well that at one stage we got a bit confused when we were looking at this research. But if anyone does get confused, come back and ask. But it's definitely Nigella seeds. That's the most
Yeah,
common name.
Nigella seeds. Yeah, yeah. So, and you can just basically you can add them at the start of like in oil with like a curry. You can sprinkle them over salads at the end. You not often, but you see them a bit like sprinkled on top of bread and crackers sometimes before they're baked. But yeah, just another nice easy one. I think it's about equivalent of a teaspoon from memory. Again, I don't remember exact dosages of all these things, but it's more about for me like holistically looking at trying to just get more good things into your diet rather
Hmm.
than going, oh, I need to have like a whole teaspoon of Nigella seeds today, or I've not held my thyroid or something because
Yeah.
that's not helpful.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think you make a really relevant point there. It's like we're not telling you these things so that you then feel ashamed or deficient. We're utilizing these things as ways that can make your life better really easily, that you can just implement without too many barriers. And that's kind of the point of this, right?
Yeah, and like for example, we were talking about like how many different beans we had earlier, and like spices, and even like how many spices. Like by adding more variety to your diet, even if it's like you might get black beans next week, you might get, I don't know, kidney beans, then chickpeas, whatever. If you're doing that, like rotating that weekly, it's going to be beneficial to your gut bacteria as well. And it's going to keep it interesting for you and you can try more things, see what you like. Same with spices, same kind of thing. But yeah, next one, yeah.
Yeah.
So vitamin C, which is okay, so oranges are like known as like the king of vitamin C, far from it. Three foods that always immediately come to mind for me that have a lot more than it, like a lot more, are red peppers or capsicums, broccoli. Broccoli's got about twice the amount of an orange, and kiwi fruits, as well. I think they've got more than double the amount, and and the red peppers do as well further. So that's just one of those things. Vitamin C just had like good PR, I guess, because like no, it's probably something to do with like, because you know how orange juice is like seen as breakfast staple. It's probably something
Yeah.
to do with all the ad campaigns in
Yeah.
like however long ago when that became popularized. So it's just more to think about that. So some of the things like, everyone knows vitamin C is good for you, basically like, oh, it's going to not stop me getting sick or whatever. So what vitamin C is useful for cutting caffeine half-life. So there's actually conflicting research on that and whether or not that's a true thing. But from personal experience, because I am a coffee wanker, I go to like cuppings and coffee events, and they're usually at night. And if I'm drinking coffee, like usually I don't drink caffeine. I try not to drink caffeine after midday. But if I go to something like that where I know I'm going to have caffeine, I will have something that's very vitamin C rich on hand to eat when I'm on the way home. So like often, I'll go to like cuppings at my favorite coffee place, Diggy Doos. I'll just give them a shout out because
Do it.
they're the best in Sydney. And I'll eat just like a raw red capsicum when I'm leaving, walking back to the bus, and everyone looks at you weird, like you're eating it like an apple. Or you can eat like a punnet of strawberries, raspberries as well, for another couple of examples, things that maybe are a bit more palatable to people, like they're just going to walk along eating it. I mean, you can just eat raw broccoli too, but that's a bit less fun. And then with caffeine as well, sorry, on the caffeine thing, that actually lowers your iron and creatine absorption. So that's to keep in mind around like when you're having caffeine, specifically if you're taking creatine or if you're iron deficient or worried about iron deficiency. And vitamin C actually helps absorb iron as well.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when we start to go down these nutrients that I suppose enhance or can limit or block uptake of other nutrients. And I think this is a really cool one. Like caffeine limits iron, which for me was a really big one. I am definitely consistently on the lower end of iron, always potentially bordering on anemic. And, for me, to take in that iron rich food, it's really important that I have to space out my caffeine with it. Otherwise it's almost negligible. Like I'm making all of this effort to eat healthy and eat well, and if I have a coffee because I really enjoy it, but if I have a coffee with it, I'm blocking the absorption of some of it. So I think it's really good to know how potentially some of these things can interact. That's probably one good example, and I'm sure we could find more for another podcast. But I really love showing people that, like even if you are doing quote unquote all the right things, sometimes that you do have to take it to that nth degree and find out things like, oh, my caffeine's blocking my iron uptake or something like that, that then really helps you get over the line to start feeling better or doing things better in your own life as well, which is why I think little bits of these kinds of information are so helpful for people, because the more you hear it as well, then the more you can really absorb it and learn.
Yeah, and just on that, like specifically around the iron absorption, the half-life of caffeine is somewhere between 8 and 12 hours, depending on the person. So it's just important to know that kind of stuff. So it stays in your system up to that long. So not only from a sleep perspective, but like if from the iron perspective. So like, for example, if you're eating dinner at 6 p.m. and like your iron deficiency, you're like, oh, I'll have red meat X amount of times a week for dinner. You should probably really have your last bit of caffeine at 10 a.m. just to be a bit safer. Like, and it doesn't mean you don't absorb any of the iron. It just means you absorb less. And yeah, and like creatine, I specifically mentioned as well, because like creatine people, I think classically associate that with like bodybuilding and athletes and stuff, but like that's got a crazy amount of health benefits. And I think I even mentioned it on the last podcast, can't quite remember, but like it is the most studied supplement, and it's like great for like dementia, and research is showing now it can be good for like multiple sclerosis, obviously building muscle, which is great too, which is like not only looks good, but also long term, like longevity.
Women in menopause, like symptoms.
Yeah, that's right. That was another one. Yeah, so there's tons. It's like it's turning into like almost like with turmeric. Every time it's studied, they're like, "Oh, cool, it's good for this. We didn't mean to find that, but we just did." Yeah, so that would be another thing, just like creatine. And creatine monohydrate is the best form of it. It is the cheapest form of it. All the other ones are a load of crap. They're going to be as bioavailable or less bioavailable, and they're going to be more expensive.
Yeah. And I think you wanted to make this point as well. So, like, quite a few of, either energy drinks or perhaps maybe like creatine supplements that have like cool flavors or whatever actually have this negating effect where they have caffeine in it. And so you're seeing this kind of mismatch of what you're actually talking about, of the supplement itself having the blocker inside it when you're trying to promote a creatine or something like that. Isn't that right?
Yeah, pre-workouts are the ones that are the one I have a problem with that. So as somebody who used to like take pre-workouts and all that sort of stuff, a lot of them have creatine in there, and they just put it on there because it looks sexy. It's another ingredient. So like they all have an ingredient list as long as your arm, or not
Mm.
all of them, but a lot of them do. And they've got like 300 milligrams of caffeine in there, a lot of them, which is like, and again, I am not hating on caffeine. I fucking love coffee. Like caffeine's great. Caffeine's great for like performance in the gym or sport and stuff too. But it's like when you're adding then creatine to that as well, you're just like, and it's like usually some crappy dose too. It's like 500 milligram or a gram. So part of it is it fills it out. It looks good on there and it's cheap. And then you're going to absorb maybe half of it anyway. And like therapeutic dosing is a lot higher than that. You'd be looking at like, well, recently around brain health, it's like 10 grams a day. Point being, there's a lot of, particularly in the supplement and like bodybuilding supplement industry, unfortunately, there's a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fluff in all the supplement industry. There's a lot of fluff in the medical industry too. So
Yeah.
I'm not hating on supplements either. Quite like supplements, depending on what they are.
I think the creatine, I've recommended many, many, many clients to go on it now. And like you said, the amount of research that's on it is incredible. The safety of it is incredible. It's like one of the most low risk supplements you could take, and any of the adverse risks that they had potentially thought that creatine had only really occur if you have pre-existing conditions, which again is your responsibility to know and to find out about and make sure that you're not having these contraindications. So always ask your medical professional when you're starting any kind of supplementation, particularly if you do have existing medical conditions.
Yeah, specifically kidney around
Yeah.
creatine. Sorry, just on that, I just have a quite like I still remember years ago, when I was working for a pharma company still, and I went into a particular customer, like I was a sales rep store, and I was saying something about taking creatine, and they're like, "Oh, be really careful. It can be really bad for your kidneys." And I'm thinking, like, fuck me, I'm in a pharmacy. Like, look at your dispensary. Everything's bad for people in there. And like, yeah, some of it's great short term, but like, I'm just like the amount of side effects and those kind of things. And then people get scared off by a supplement that's overwhelmingly safe and overwhelmingly extremely well researched. It's yeah, it's just kind of crazy. It was like I was saying about the walnuts thing earlier too. It's like careful they don't have an allergy, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if a med pro is looking into this, like who's giving someone chemotherapy, they should probably be asking things like, do you have an allergy to
Yeah.
certain things? But or anyway, but yeah, sorry, just that reminded me
No,
of that.
it's very interesting. And like you said, recently I've upped the dose. So I'm gonna do a little experiment of myself. I'm gonna keep up my 10-gram dose for the next little while, because what I've also found with this 10-gram dose is that it's really reduced any like gastrointestinal, just kind of like fluctuations, I suppose, that you get, because I used to have endo and female hormonal health and all of these kinds of things. That one was
Endometriosis, right?
yes, thank you. And that's been really fascinating to me, but I want to make sure that I'm not dreaming it. So I will cut the dose back down, check it out, see what happens, and if it does have a beneficial gut effect, like that's super cool. Like it's really interesting, and it has been shown to have these effects for your gut as well. So like stuff like that just really fascinates me, because you don't seem to be getting too much of an effect on that. So it depends on the person as well, like how it can really affect your body. Like it might say it does something on the label, but it still can have a personal effect on you as well. I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, well, I suppose everyone reacts differently to the same things. But yeah, I mean, that's super interesting around the gut, like the gastro side of it, because if it's helping with that, that's obviously a big thing, even just for like lifestyle comfort and that for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I think those are our big tips for this week. What I thought we could also talk about adding in, nutrition. Well, let's try that one again. We're talking about adding a little bit more nutrition into your day. Some tasty things as well. You ensure, before we talk about food prep, but you ensure that you have something that you really love every day. Isn't that right?
Yeah, chocolate. So unless I actually don't feel like it, which is fairly rare, I will make sure I have some degree of chocolate every single day. We discussed this a little bit on the last podcast about how I was having like Lindt and peanut butter, but basically they've turned into the devil. They're a big corporate and they lie about what's in there. So just be aware of that. Look into it, if you want to. like heavy metals and stuff at above safe levels. But like, for example, this morning, after my breakfast, like I got given some Cadbury favorites a while ago. So I just had like a little dairy milk chocolate one because I was like, yep, I want that. So I just had one. And for calorie load, it's like 68 calories. And it just like scratches that little itch of like, oh, now I've had chocolate today. And then like in my head, it's like, oh, I've had chocolate. Great. So, and it's just something I really enjoy. So another way I get it is sometimes I mix just like unsweetened cocoa powder with coconut water and like cinnamon if I feel like or any other spices and if I feel like it, which is most of the time for me. You don't need to add those. But it's just like basically a very chocolatey kind of obviously vaguely coconutty drink. Or I'll make like hot chocolates from scratch, which means like I'll put cocoa and cacao along with some spices and like a teaspoon of sugar in it. And then I'll just like mix all that up with some really hot water and then just frost some milk on the coffee machine. So there's just ways to get chocolate in every single day and like just enjoy it and like and that's the important thing. And like if you're having like cocoa and cacao, like I like a mixture or even just cocoa, you're getting more fiber in there too. They're actually really good source of fiber. Not like when you but like Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate is not a good source of fiber. But like just for clarity, it's delicious though. Like I mean, I actually tend to gravitate towards dark like much darker chocolate, like 70, 80, 90%, more towards the 90. But I do like when I have like milk chocolate now and again, it's like heroin as well. So like there's this like intensely sweet hit.
Yeah.
So it yeah, but it's just something that I really enjoy, so I make sure I have it every day.
I think that that's really important as well. Like the theme today is like, what can you add rather than what can you take away? Because traditionally diet culture is about removal. It's about not doing things. And we know that that doesn't really work and it has such a detrimental effect and it can produce a lot of these like shame and guilt feelings in people when they remove it and then they say they relapse. And I say that in inverted commas because they want the things that make them happy. Food makes you happy. It's comfort, it's social. And so if you need to learn control over certain foods because they have control over you, including them in really small amounts throughout your day, every day, so that it doesn't have so much power over you is really something that can be really, really beneficial for you in the long term. And I just want to put in there that coconut and chocolate water and chocolate thing that you make is so bloody delicious. Is so good, honestly. Like, you should try it.
It's like weirdly delicious. It's
so
like one of
good.
those things you have it, you're like, oh wow. And yeah, no, I agree on that. Like, and look, if it's something like fried chicken, don't have that every day. Like, like do it within reason, but have it more often. Or have like just have smaller serves of it, and just figure out what works for you. Once you get past that, like letting it control you that you were mentioning, it becomes much easier to say no or to like huge amounts of it at a time because you learn to satisfy it. Like you learn satisfaction from it. And like also when you have it, it's so much more enjoyable than it was previously. Whereas like previously you might scoff it down and like I can tell you that from absolute like personal experience, like scoffing whole loads of chocolate and like you can't eat it fast enough. And before you know it, you're like, how the fuck did I just eat a block of chocolate or like a jar of like chocolate covered fucking almonds? Like which I would eat over like a block of 100-gram Lindt chocolate when I used to get it. That'd be like 5 sittings. So like 5 days, like 20 grams a day. And like it's more than enough if you sit down and enjoy it. So yeah, just again, it takes away that control and it actually, I find it's up my enjoyment of it as well quite a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good point. No, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. For the last 5-10 minutes, let's talk about how to prepare to food prep because I think we get this message quite a lot from, health advocates and influencers and a whole bunch of people. We're doing food prep. We recommend it. Food prep is incredibly helpful. It's incredibly useful. But I think that there's a couple of ways to ensure that people are prepared enough that they have the right things in their house to make food prep easier for them. Where do you think we should start with this?
Probably having containers. So if you're doing food prep for 2 people from Monday to Friday, just even if, say just like we do, just your lunch, you will need at least 10 containers, and you'll need more than 10 because you'll have stuff in the fridge just generally that you'll put in containers, right? Like a recommendation would be glass too, because you don't want to heat things up in plastic because you get all the microplastics leaching, and we all kind of keep hearing how bad that is for us. No surprise. Like as a recommendation, again, a plug for a massive company that probably doesn't need it, IKEA, because people might think, oh, it's a big investment, but IKEA, the glass containers are quite cheap. I think they're about $4 each, depending on the size, which is very affordable for, I think, nearly everyone. And then you can get plastic lids, just don't leave the lid on when you're reheating it would be another thing. But yeah, so basically at least 10 containers if it's for 2 people. So that would be the first thing. Something to like if you're taking that to work with you or whatever, like something to take it in, like some
Yep.
sort of lunch
Yep.
bag. Get a Spider-Man lunchbox or lunch bag or something. Get something sweet like that. That's cool. Yeah, my boy Spidey or something, or like Pokemon, something cool. So yeah, go on, sorry.
Yes. If you had a lunchbox, if I could see it now. I have a pink sparkly lunchbox for context, everybody. So
Great stuff.
yes, yeah. My recommendation is make sure you have enough space in your fridge to
Yeah.
stack said containers, because every Sunday we play fridge Tetris, especially if we've just overbought a little bit, or if we've maybe made extra meals or something like that, where we quite literally have to juggle things in the fridge to make sure that they fit. So if if you have a big family and you have a lot of things in your fridge, that is a barrier to food prep. You know what I mean? Like if you can't fit it in there, that's going to be a challenge. The containers are a really, really good one. I'm going to say a sharp knife. Can you talk about why sharp knife is important?
Well, it makes cutting a lot easier. It makes it safer too, despite what some people think, because a sharp knife is less likely to slip. So that is just very handy. And like you want to make things like food prep as easy as possible. Like I'll be honest with you, I don't look forward to doing food prep any week. Like any week, I don't look forward to it. And like even being willfully unemployed at the moment, like I have enough time if I want. I'm like I've got the patience to as well. I could cook myself lunch every single day quite happily. But just having the food prep there is super helpful because it just means I know I've got a meal that's somewhere in the vicinity. I can tell off the top of my head about 50 grams of protein, about 15 grams of fiber, and just has a shitload of veggies in there. And it's got some nuts and seeds too. It's got chicken in it. Like it's a really complete meal, and it's actually really tasty as well. And so it's just a nice, easy way for me to get like just about a third of my daily fiber because I usually eat about 45 to 50 grams of fiber and about just over a third of my daily protein as well. So like it
Mm.
just makes it easier for the rest of the day to kind of make things around that I like a lot too.
Yeah, I want to use a personal story here. I definitely was the person who said that I needed to eat something different at least every week, if not maybe nearly every day, because I
Day, day.
didn't like eating the same thing every day. I have since changed that. We have not changed our food prep recipe for I don't know how long now. Perhaps it's been at least a couple of years. I would say our lunch food prep salads has been a staple for us for quite a few years. You know me. How did you help me change my position on this? What did you do? I think you did some things consciously, some things subconsciously.
No, I didn't. I did them very consciously. So we used to actually have 2 food prep meals. We used to eat 4 meals a day. Now we eat three. I prefer eating three because it means I can eat bigger meals, and bigger meals to me are a lot more fun. But how I changed your mind on it was basically just talking to you about like, well, it's 1 meal a day and it's there for you every single day. So like if you're at work and you think you're in a rush and you can't stop to get something, or you don't, or you just grab whatever's there. Like you spend like 20, $25 on something that's shit that you don't even like. So it's a big cost save to begin with. And then as well, like most mornings you'll have a different breakfast and most nights you'll have a different dinner. Like we'll have, like, I mean, some like dinners we'll have Monday to Friday. It'll be 3 or 4 different dishes over the 5 nights. But then like breakfast, I'll help you prep them and stuff. if you need to take them to work. So it's just like you can get variety in every other meal of the day. And then on the weekends as well, obviously, like we don't have anything, we rarely have anything pre-prepped, but it's not from food prep. It's just we might be pre-prepped from the day before or something. So it's just a real, and again, like I was just discussing before, just about getting a load of protein, a load of fiber, and a load of veggies all in one go, because that means throughout the day, if you get less, it's less of an issue. Like our salads would have somewhere in the vicinity of 5 or 6 serves of veg in there. And you'll hear different recommended dailies of 5, 8, or 10 plus for fruit and vegetable. I very much subscribe to the 10 plus serves. What is a serve? It is 80 grams raw, ballpark. That's just the easiest way to look at it. So, like, that means over a day, 10 plus serves is 800 grams of fruit and vegetable, which sounds actually like a lot. It's actually not that hard to get. And like you don't have to aim that high. Aim for 5. Like if you're getting 5, you're getting more than fucking like a stupid amount of the population, like a huge percentage. I think it's like something like the adult population gets only like 20% of the people hit the 5 serves of fruit and vegetable a day, which is like unreal.
Well, it ties back in really well with what you said last pod about volume eating, in terms of, if you're having 800 grams of fruit and veg, that's going to make you feel full. Like, I'm sorry, like I weigh not that much, but even if you weighed, double me, that's still a significant amount of food to be eating in just terms of the actual weight of it in itself. And I think that's what's lost on people, is when we reduce ourselves to processed food and carbohydrates and processed carbohydrates and all these kinds of convenience foods. Like if you pick up a protein bar, it doesn't weigh that much and it doesn't fill you up, but it has more calories in it than a small meal. Or some do, some don't, obviously, but they can have more calories in them than a small meal. But you're not feeling like you've eaten that much because you haven't physically. There's nothing there to occupy the space of your gut. And that's where this adding fruits, adding vegetables, adding the 80 grams of one vegetable raw, like that's a really significant way to change your lifestyle, your diet, your nutrition all in one go.
The way to look at it as well, so to hit 5, that means you need to have 1 serve at one meal and 2 serves at the other two, right? Or you could have it 5 in one. It's from like, I don't know if it's better to spread it out or not. I'd imagine it would be, but like whatever, better to just get it in. But so you think about it, like if you have for breakfast yogurt or something, if you throw in if you throw in a punnet of like blueberries, that's 125 grams. So that's 1.5 serves right there. And you think about it at lunch, if, I don't know, you have like, it doesn't matter what you have, but if you have some like shredded cabbage next to it, it's easy to get like another 100 grams, which is one and a bit. And then at dinner, if you have like a wedge of baked pumpkin, a potato, not a deep fried one, potatoes are excellent for you. Leave the skin on them. They get such a bad rap. Eat the skin. And you have a potato, it's probably going to be a minimum 150 grams. So that's basically 2 more. And you get a big wedge of pumpkin, say another 200 grams. That's probably what, already 6, 7 serves. And it's having fuck all. Like, it's not hard to do that.
Yeah.
So it's just about, like, don't think of it as like 10 serves or 5 serves. I mean, if you have 5 different vegetables and a piece of fruit, you're probably going to hit your daily. Like, you probably are, or at least get closer to it. And the closer you're getting to it or above it, probably the better as well. So you don't have to make it perfect from day one, but just try and get a bit more in with, like, every time you eat, just think, oh, okay, how could I add another veggie to this? Like a handful of rocket, a handful of different type of lettuce. I don't know, like sprinkle some pomegranate seeds if you can be bothered peeling a pomegranate and getting all the arrows out. It's well worth it. I've been doing it every week and I'm like, anyway, yeah, it's great. They're so tasty on top of things.
They're so tasty. Definitely can say that. I think that's all amazingly excellent advice. Is there anything you want to finish on?
No, apart from fuck Tottenham. 19 losses already this season. Just so don't edit that out.
All right. There was always going to be a football reference. To those of you who have no idea what's going on, don't worry. But those of you who do, now you can laugh and follow what he says. Thank you. Thanks so much. We'll definitely get you on next time.
See